Barbara, thank you for that introduction. It was most generous, and thank you for your service to the Little Rock region and area by taking on the duties of being president of or chairman of the chamber. And Hugh, good luck next year, man. You got a lot of work to do, and I know you're up to it. So it was 8 years ago. In 2002 was the last time I had the privilege of addressing an annual meeting of the Greater Little Rock Chamber of Commerce. And I thought today I would divide my comments into really two parts. The first part focusing on macroeconomics that we as a country face today, and I will conclude with issues concerning regional growth and opportunities. And I think there'll be time at the end of this if people have any questions, we'll be glad to take those at the end as well. But I want to spend a few minutes talking about the macroeconomic environment we face here in the U.S. You hear a lot from business people, I hear it a lot, that the environment is very uncertain, seems to be the word that is used a lot. And I feel that is an accurate assessment and is really an environment created by our leaders in Washington. We pass bills that will have an enormous impact on every part of our life, yet the specifics of how these bills will work are undefined and will be defined in the future not by someone we elected, but by someone who is an administrator or a bureaucrat. I know in our company we have tried to assess the impact of the health care bill, and the bottom line is we don't know. Therefore, we don't know what it will cost us for our existing employees, much less a new one. The Dodd-Frank financial reform bill is much the same. The only thing we know for sure is the new Consumer Protection Agency is going to make credit less and less available because of increased rules and regulations. But speaking of credit, the credit contraction this country has gone through in the last few years is breathtaking. A survey by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that households slashed $1 trillion of outstanding consumer debt from the peak in the third quarter of 2008. All revolving debt continues to decline as it dropped $5.6 billion in the month of October of this year. Now, some of this is as it should be. People are retrenching, getting their personal and family balance sheets in order, but some of it is the result of new laws that were passed which stopped credit card companies from raising rates on people when they fell behind or missed payments. The credit card companies' response to that was to raise their underwriting standards, and as a result, fewer people have access to credit cards today. This lack of credit has made the current business slump worse and is one of the reasons businesses are very cautious about hiring, as they do not see demand returning to pre-2008 levels in the near term. The fact that Congress passed a bill that had this type of effect makes everyone worry, what will they do next? When people talk about being uncertain, this is the type of thing that leads them to that conclusion. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal ran a front-page story saying there are 141 provisions in the tax code that have a limited life. In what has to be one of, if not the most absurd economic dilemma ever faced by the U.S., we do not know what our income, capital gains, dividend, and estate tax will be in 16 days. In today's Wall Street Journal editorial page, there is a story about the Democratic leadership in the Senate and their plan to pass the new tax legislation, the New START arms treaty with Russia, the Immigration Dreams Act, a bill to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the military, and for good measure, a 1,924-page omnibus spending bill for 2011. There are very serious questions about all of these bills that warrant further discussion. To try to pass them in a rushed manner in a lame duck session is at a minimum irresponsible. and certainly gives people the feeling we don't know what is going on. How could we? They don't know what's going on. They freely admit that the omnibus spending bill has been read by very few members. But until we know what our tax rates are going to be for next year, you'd like to think it would be longer than that, and what it's going to cost to provide health care, and how our banks are supposed to comply with Dodd-Frank, the uncertainty in the economy will remain, and economic activity will continue to be slower than previous recoveries. Now, a news story about the Chamber's annual meeting in 2002 said, quote, Stevens floats city merger idea at Chamber luncheon by calling on business and community leaders to consider merging governments to cut waste and raise the profile of the area, end quote. Well, for the record, I still think that is a very good idea. Now, you may recall in 2002, we had only recently completed the merger of Little Rock and North Little Rock water systems into one. That was a big deal, and not without some concern on both sides of the river. Now we think nothing of referring to Central Arkansas Water System. It is working, providing safe, clean drinking water to 400,000 customers, and with agreements in place to provide this area with water for the anticipated growth in the next 50 years. That was the first big step in becoming one united economic region. However, there are others we should consider. Regionalism is a concept we are only beginning to embrace, and it is a concept we should continue to think about and look for opportunities every day. Just this morning, 103,000 people, 42% of the workforce, woke up in a county other than Pulaski and drove here to work. And 28,000 commuted out of Pulaski County to one of our adjacent counties. In a place where we can still equate miles in terms of minutes, we also have to focus on regional goals and objectives. It clearly points out the need for regional collaboration on all issues, but particularly transportation issues and initiatives. A business person is always looking for ways to provide the same or even better service for less money. That is particularly true in an economic environment like the one we are